If you are new to my channel, my name is Holly Lee. I am an extremely passionate career coach. I spent 20 plus years in the recruiting industry for high tech, scientific, manufacturing. You name it, I have done it all. I am here to provide you with 2 live coaching every single week, which is every Tuesdays and every Friday for my paid YouTube member, where I review your branding and review your story about my top 7 behavioral interview questions for 2021 that's going to help you land a job with whatever company you chose to. Please give a girl a thumbs up right inside this video. Growing my career from startup, mostly 90% of the FANG companies, the questions are very similar. I've helped a lot of senior level, a lot of mid-level, and a whole ton of executive and leadership level. And guess what? When I am in private coaching session with them or my VIP group coaching cohort, the questions that I have discovered on Glassdoor, on Core, they are all the same. Why Amazon? Why Amazon? Why ABC company? Why this startup? Wanted to know why you're interested in the company. In reality, they really want to ask you, why am I spending an hour of interviewing you? And why are you a good fit for this role? That's the actual question. So when somebody asks you, why is Amazon? Why whatever company? Don't just say, well, because this is the number one biggest mistake, people. Listen very carefully. Amazon is the biggest company in the world right now. It's the fastest growing, most innovative company in the world. Everyone says that. Everyone does that. So don't do it that you're showing up prepared for an interview by doing your homework. For example, I have a whole video about that. It's called Why Amazon, right? How ironic is that? By the way, every single thing I'm talking about today, I have a video and a template to walk you through, holding your hand like this, okay? And you creating your story. It's just that Amazon has such a wide breadth of and products and services, from consumer electronics to retail, online e-commerce, to AWS, now even healthcare, Amazon Care. So they have a variety of everything, and that's why they have the most open position. Write it down on a piece of paper. Why do you want to work for A, the company, 2, specifically that org or that team? Do you know the hiring manager? Do you have friends that's already in there that's telling you great things about what they're launching, what they're building? Talk a little bit about that. And then when you end as you why the Amazon that you wanted to work for, what is your added value? Why should an employer hire you? Number 2 is the most innovative thing you have done, which is walk me through a project that you're most proud of. What is the biggest business impact you've made? Holly, can you tell me what probing question is with this question, with this questions? Here's the thing. When you invest so much time in trying to figure out what the probing question is, in reality is your answer. The first step, the first most important step in creating your story, in acing the job interview, okay? Acing the interview is to create perfect story. I told you guys, there's 10 to 50 ways in asking you one simple question, yeah? So I want you to be so good in the most innovative thing, a project that you're really proud of, that you're so excited to share with me, that it can just come out from the back of your pocket without having to memorize things. If you guys try to memorize your story, you will fail, because there's at least 20 plus stories the interviewers will ask you, which is why when I teach, and in my cohort alone, I don't teach you more than 17 to 20 questions max. Because if you can answer the top 7 that I'm giving you right now, you're going to get the job. Okay, you're going to, but you need to answer it in a way where it's so clear with your specific example that you will be giving the employer or the interviewer that they will knock their socks off. It's clear what your scope is. It's clear what problem you're trying to solve. It's clear how you're able to solve the problem and your impact. Sounds like the STAR method, right? We'll talk about that in a second, okay? The most innovative thing that you've done is one of the top interview questions. A lot of people fail because even if they have a great ROI, return on investment, there's a big gap in the middle. They don't really tell the interviewer how they got there. Rather than saying, yeah, I'm able to help my company build a great product and launch it, generate like $2 million. That's great. How did you launch this? What exactly did you do? What part of that initiative did you own? Number 3 is the most complex problem you've solved. So if you are a technical professional, such as software engineer, dev manager, basically in the tech field, then you would probably want to talk about the most technical problem you have to solve for. But if you're non-tech, such as product leader, program managers, business analysts, so on and so forth, you want to talk about what is the most complex? Let me define that a little bit because I get a lot of those questions, customer as well. Think about a project where you really have to bend over back into digging really deep in the data and figure out what problem you're really trying to solve. How do you even know what the gap is? Who did you leverage? Where did you find the resources to figure out what's wrong? What is it that went wrong? And before you solve a problem, what data did you measure? And what was the outcome that you want? Now take a step back and walk me through how you're able to identify clearly specific example, how you're able to solve that problem and what was that end result. The most complex problem is also the biggest problem that you ever have to solve, that when you are giving an answer, the interviewer wanted to say, wow. Yeah, this is a solid level 6. Okay, wow. This person's able to meet their deliverables, and I can tell very clearly exactly what they have done and how many people they're able to influence in delivering this result. Do you see what I'm saying? I do have an example. It's called the most complex problem you've solved as well. Before it may come in shock for a lot of you guys, it is one of my favorite because I have not met anyone. I've not interviewed anyone. I've not even bar racer that I have helped focus on one of the strengths which could be perceived as a wrong thing. Let me give you guys an example. By the way, yes, I have a video about this as well to help on board and take care of my internal stakeholder in Austin. But I also have a negative feedback from my manager at the time that I was doing too much. It's not my scope and I'm wasting my time. In reality, I disagree with that. It is a weakness of mine. I'm very obsessed. When I see that there's a way for me to just do like a little bit more, I really don't mind because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that my customers are taken care of. Do you see the example that I just gave you guys? That is a weakness, people. It is a weakness. Do not tell the interviewer my weakness is I'm not able to communicate well. So think about a strength where you have successes or achievement. Your customers or your even internal clients actually thank you for that. You made a tremendous impact, but from a different lens, they may see it as, you're weak because you're doing too much. You're in trust with a different team that has nothing to do with your business, not seeing the big picture that you're building and being able to influence, where the team that I just mentioned on Austin, they were so thankful that I was able to transform a lot of those leaders into hiring leaders. And we would travel every single month around the world to build dev center for Amazon at the time. True story, right? Because they know that if I'm willing to work so hard for them, I will work extremely hard to help them build out the org internationally. You see where I'm going? Your career failure, think about your biggest mistakes or a time that you have a lot of regret. All of us have mistakes. I've seen a lot of interviewer who even have more experience than the entire team, than the manager, but they don't get a position at these big top companies because they have never made a mistake in their life. Everyone has made a mistake. We may not acknowledge that as a career mistake, but what about a time where you could have done better? I have so many failure, guys, so many where God, I wish I could have gone back and changed the way how I communicate with my leader, or I wish I could have planned out my international event and invest even more time in it so that there's no language barrier. And even though I met my goal and sure, I was able to hire a lot of people for Amazon, but I could have hired more quality people instead of wasting a lot of the hiring team's time. Everyone have made a mistake. Or where do you wish that you could have gone back in time to fix it and do it differently to make it better? Just think about that, okay? Another point I wanted to make is the employers really want to know what you have learned from your mistakes. Check out my biggest mistakes video. Another example is where you're able to build a product or program from beginning to inception. What is your process of deliverable? How do you scale? How are you able to make an impact when you impact? Right? Hence why you see a lot of life cycle interview questions. For example, walk me through an example of your software development life cycle if you're an engineer or a tech folk. Or walk me through the entire agile methodology life cycle because there's a whole process of that. You don't just go from zero to testing and then launch. What is the production? Where's the beta testing? Were you coding? Who did you leverage? So that's a whole entire life cycle. Even in recruiting, we have a recruiting full life cycle. Number one questions. what is your recruiting or your sourcing full life cycle? So walk me through how you're able to identify the candidates, how you reach out to the candidates, and how do you engage with them? How do you start the interview process with them? The entire life cycle. So when somebody asks you to give me an example of where you built a product from beginning to end or beginning to inception, that's exactly what they're looking for. And 100% of the professional, they think they have given me or the employer an answer, but the reality, they have not. So think about that. This really provides a preview of your scope and your ability to scale. What have you done and did you finish building the project or the program or the product that you are giving a specific example? I talk a lot about the STAR method. In fact, I'm so passionate about the STAR method. I have merchandise. Yeah, guys, that I never talk about. Of course, no one buys my merchandise because I don't talk about them. It's called Eat Sleep Star. This is real. The STAR method helps me put my business proposal together. It's not just passing your interview, but it helps you to trim down to be the conciseness. What do you want to talk about? That's your situation. Okay, what problem are you solving for? But you can't just go, I'm solving for this problem. That's great. What was your role? You need to give people a preview of a content that you're trying to transition into instead of just throwing at them. So it makes more sense. Yeah. And also, how are you supposed to do it? What is your action plan? What action did you take to solve this problem? The number one biggest mistake is everybody start using we. We did this, we do this, we build this, we have a problem. It's I. It's all about the I. What did you do? Because employers are not going to hire you if you keep on pulling we. I is really powerful. It's ownership. When you're in an interview mode, you want to demonstrate as much ownership as possible. Can you take a guess what my number 7 is? I'm really saving the best for last. A lot of people struggle with this. Hernan, yay! I got an offer at Amazon. Let's talk about disagree with your manager, your peer, or your customer. Why should the employee cares about that? Because in a working environment, number one, guys, we're very diverse. First, meaning we come from different backgrounds. This is not even professional workplace, even personal, right? I was born and raised in Vietnam, and the way how we operate is very fast to the point because we care and we're obsessed with result. And I'm also Chinese, which means we know when to be very, very passive. We're very nice. We like to check in with you. How are you doing? Do you need help? Where's your gap? What can I do to help? But when you work for an environment, you have to look at the culture. What does that culture call for? Because everyone is going towards the same goal, which is delivering results. But guess what? That role that they hire you into and the level, you are also internally competing with everyone in that role and in that position. That's where diversity comes into play. And that's why when people are moving so fast, sometimes words could be misinterpreted. For instance, I probably disagree with all of my manager at least 50% of the time and vice versa because my manager didn't come from my background. For instance, my last manager came from financial services. And then from there, he worked at Google for like a second. And then he was at Facebook for 6-7 years. My background, I literally have to knock down, like I'm literally knocking on my table right now, knock on payment and say, my name is Holly. I provide IT services. Basically, I want your business and I want to hire every single person for you, Mr. Siemens Services or Nokia as one of my former customer. I grew my career that way. I wanted to really hone in on the root cause and try to figure out what the pain point is in order to win them. So that's my background. Not everyone come from that background. And also when I came to the state, I was 10 years old. So I have seen what working hard truly is. I'm not saying that if you're born and raised in the US, you don't work hard. That's not my intention. But where I come from, my background, that's what we're still seeing in my country. So this is where questions such as disagreement with your peer, with your manager specifically, play into a big part because there's always going to be disagreement. And when you're coming from another FANG company and you're going to an Amazon, I guarantee you and your manager are not going to see eye to eye because if that person have been in that culture long enough, their lens and your lens not the same. Let me know if that makes sense to you guys. Another thing is, aside from diversity and whatnot, it's also your ability to influence and dealing with ambiguity. Okay, your goal of working for a corporation, any size, is not just a giant like Amazon. You're gonna work with a lot of peers. You're going to have one manager, Oftentimes when you work with big corporation, there's a lot of management changes. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, where, for example, I went through 4 managers in six months. True story. I've had a lot of management changes in the big FANG companies because business are growing, they have to shift, which means they have to go through reorg, right? Now you have to rebuild your trust with a new leader that you work for. And they also have to build trust with you. So being able to earn trust, your ability to influence and ambiguity is huge. There you have it, folks. Those are my top 7 interview behavioral questions right off of Amazon. And I know for a fact that a lot of the other tech companies are using very, very similar as well. Okay. I'll see you on Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.